Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. I'm Andy Nam. Joining me in everything is my life partner Minna and my co-host Christy Boyd Johnson. How are you, Christy?
I'm doing great. I just watched the first day of our summit today. It was fantastic.
Yes, it's something that we've been putting together for the whole year for the Chronic Health Collective, and I think it was an amazing first day to kick off with 3 of our own coaches on our masterclass, right? A lot of people like calling summits and they're teaching something. We like to call this one a masterclass so people can walk away with something, that they can personally take in with them. And, did you watch Candace's first one about manifesting the 10K? I thought that was sort of interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch any. So, Christy, what's the takeaway from it?
Yeah, money loves speed. I love that. And how we hold ourselves back and slow ourselves down. And why do we do that? Let's just not do that anymore.
Exactly. So that was really amazing. And then we had Jeanine on there, talking about spirit, mind, and body. And coincidentally, there, I think I said it right.
You did.
We can have her on tonight. So we have a double feature of her. We had her in the morning. Now we're gonna have her again tonight. So we're gonna do a little deeper dive of her. She had it's the first time I actually talked to an ancestral medicine woman. So it's definitely gonna be a very interesting topic tonight. And who do we have as a third guest?
Today on the show,
yes, on the masterclass.
Vince Abramo.
Yeah, Vince Abramo, yes.
Yes, the peace coach. One thing I love about Vince is that she just feels peaceful. She talks in a way that's peaceful, and you just feel it. And so I love it when people live their truth. And it shows.
Exactly. No, it's so true. It's so true. We love him. She was talking about the ants. Me and Minna love the ants, the automatic negative thoughts. But I think one of the things that was the funnest that she was talking about the animals. Remember when she talked to us before about the animals?
Yes. Because Vince, you know that she has a disability. So it's amazing how she talks about the ants that she overcomes, right? So it's amazing.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And then, of course, we had Nicholas Hosher from the Makula Foundation, which spoke a little bit of truth of what's going on. And hopefully that's going to, get people a little bit more aware of the, potential dangers of the COVID vaccine and stuff like that. He delivered so much information. And one of the things that, I love about Peter Makula and his foundation is everything is backed by research, right? It's not just hearsay. Here's the scientific studies. They can actually quote the papers with the authors and everything. And that to me is amazing because a lot of people say, oh, it's this. why is it that? Oh, because I say so. Well, no, for him, he actually quotes the studies, along with that major study with 300 and something thousand people from Italy. So these aren't small studies. Like, this is really big studies, and they're all peer reviewed. And that was that was actually a pretty fun interview I had with him. And then we had Amanda.
Poor Amanda, those tech difficulties.
Yes.
But
her inner healing was definitely overpowering that technology. Like, she was on for like 2 minutes about microphone. You can tell she has so much energy.
She's channeling.
Yeah.
Right. And but she was talking about how to listen to your body for inner healing. So that was actually very interesting. And I we do, well, I do a lot over almost every week. We host our own little trainings twice a week. She's on my show, I'm on hers, and we're always learning something new from each other. So that was actually very entertaining. I always love having Amanda on the show. And then we had Tammy McMalley to close the show, and she talks about the spirit, intuition, rewiring your subconscious, which was very interesting. I just found that for day one, it was a lot about intuition, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole theme about it was listening to your intuition, listening to your body, listening to your mind, what is telling you, even though someone else in the world might be telling you something else, you really have to listen to, what your body's telling you, what your mind's telling you, because what it is, our bodies are smart, innately smart, right?
So what's going on tomorrow?
We have day 2, and it starts at 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and after
Central time.
Central time, yes, exactly. After watching day 1, they definitely set the bar high for us. We kick off day 2 tomorrow. So it'll be interesting. It's like we have some ideas what we're gonna talk about, but we like to stay what's the word? How do they say? We've been watching Blue Blood a little bit. Not loose.
You like to be loose.
Interesting.
Go with the flow. Just we got this.
Exactly. We're just feeling the vibes, We're just gonna let our intuition come out and see what we're gonna talk about. We have Renita Brandon on tomorrow as a special guest. She's going to be talking about how light can heal our bodies, and dive a little deeper into that. And I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to leak too much of an interview out. We have Christy on here as the second Chronic Health Collective tomorrow. And then we have Phil McComber on there too, with your interview with her.
Yes. And Phil, yes. And I planned something a little different. I'm just going to warn you right now. We're going to have a little fun.
I love it. Exactly. I think, for us, we're a foolish couple. We like things different. We like things to be a little bit more fun. Right. And then we have Jessica, she's going to talk a little bit about trauma. And then she had Beth Jones. She's into traumatic relationships and stuff like that. So it's going to be another fun-filled day tomorrow. But like you said, 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock Central Time.
It's interesting how all of this kind of relates to intuition, because like your guest from the Institute who talked about healing from the COVID vaccine and all this. I mean, how many of us listened to our intuition and didn't get vaxxed because we're like, no, doesn't matter what you say, I don't. And then, and then we're, for our trauma, your intuition is telling you to get out. And, and education, my area, I listen to my intuition a lot when I'm working with the kids.
That's so true. So, right. I love that. I love that. Exactly.
And you guys too,
so,
with the flow.
Right. All right. We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back.
An empowered life has no expiration date. We're all created to do incredible things, like conquer summits, catch big waves, and live our passions. As time goes on, our bodies begin to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy levels decline, sleep patterns shift, and recovery slows. But our bodies are masterpieces of design, holding the potential to bounce back better than ever. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and regenerative science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHKCU, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, which requires external light sources, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality, enhancing the body's flow of natural energy. For improvements in strength, stamina, performance, and overall health and well-being, with the simplicity of an affordable, non-invasive, non-transdermal patch. As we age, levels of these life-enhancing elements, which are associated with wellness and longevity, begin to decline. LifeWave invested 10 years into stem cell research, which resulted in over 70 patents. X39 was born to bring to the public a product that can support wellness in an entirely new way, supporting the production of younger, healthier cells with wearable light technology. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. Harness your body's natural potential to maintain youthful energy and vitality, because life comes at you fast, but it doesn't have to pass you by. Live long, live well, live young. Be the light with LifeWave X39. LifeWave.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with Coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. Jeanine, welcome to the show. We're so grateful to have you here with us as we lean into the rhythm of fall, a season so many of us feel, but really don't understand how to work with it.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know Jeanine, this is like the third time I met Jeanine, actually, and we're going to see a lot more of her. Jeanine L. Williams is a PhD. She is an ancestral medicine woman, a spiritual herbalist, and the founder of Ancestors Bosom, where she helps people reconnect with ancestral wisdom and live in harmony with the natural rhythms of life. Her work bridges scholarship and intuitive practice, helping people ground themselves spiritually, mentally, and physically throughout the year, especially during the seasons of change. Let's start right here, Jeanine. Fall is often described as a time of transition or slowing down. Mm-hmm. But what does fall mean to you on a deeper level?
Well, first I'll say I'm so excited to be here. So what does fall mean to me? Initially, fall used to be a time of dread for me, if I'm completely honest. It was a time where darkness took over, and not just in the world naturally, but the darkness seemed to like creep in, to my heart and my mind. But now I come to understand fall as kind of the time of like releasing, right? To just start releasing and really kind of nurturing myself, loving myself, right? As we move into the winter months, right? Which is all about a time of kind of rest and rejuvenation. So seeing fall as a welcome home, like you have done a lot through the spring and through the summer, right? You have used that energy, and now it's time to kind of release. It's time to start getting into a space of kind of resting, coming back to yourself so that you can be rejuvenated during the winter season. So yeah, it definitely has taken on a new meaning for me. I've reclaimed fall and understand it much better than previously. Yes. Mm-hmm.
How did you transition from the previous not liking fall so much to this phase where you actually embracing fall?
You know, oh my gosh, there's so many ways I could go with that. I'll share something else with about fall that it actually just kind of came up as you asked that question. When I was 7 and she was 6, my sister transitioned. She had a short illness. She had cancer, and we found out that spring, and then by that November, she transitioned. And I just remember, like, from that young age of like feeling it. So a lot of grief, a lot of unprocessed grief. And then it goes right into the holidays, right? And so then we're missing, it's a time of family and connection, but then we miss those who are not there, or maybe we don't have those relationships that we want and all of that. And so I really, like, for me, kind of part of reclaiming fall, the time of release, has been my ancestral reconnection. Realizing that although my sister has transitioned from this realm, from this physical space, she's still very much with me, as are my grandmother, those who we tend to miss, during the fall. And so that was a big part of the reclamation for me, was kind of understanding just that relationship, and that it shifted. It did not end. It did not die. And so that's why I'm very careful with even how I use the transition, because there is no death. There is just a transition, in terms of my belief in how I've kind of reclaimed that for myself. So that was a big starting point. And then, gosh, it was like, wow, well, if that's so different, what else can be different, right? What else can be different? How can I embrace the energy of this kind of seeming death of nature, right? With the tree, the leaves shedding, and and all of that. Well, gosh, is that a death really, or is that a transition? And what does that mean for me? And how can I work with that energy, as opposed to holding on to what is being released? Yes.
You're very smart. I think from the early stage, you can actually embrace that kind of energy. I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
That is so true. It was so deep. So I know for me, when it's fall, not here in Texas, but when we're in Canada and when we're in California, fall is usually when it starts getting cold, right? And this is when is when the bears are starting to hibernating. The squirrels are starting to gather more nuts, right? Because they're gathering for winter, right?
Yes.
But linking into your ancestral heritage, you start with spirit rather than talking about foraging food and thinking about clothing. Why is that?
Because, well, everything is spirit, and if I think about ancestral wisdom, or like specifically traditional African spirituality, everything is spirit, right? That we are spirit. We, everything around us is spirit, and that is that's our foundation. That's our core. That's what guides everything. And coming back to spirit is what allowed me to be more aligned, to get in alignment, right? And understanding spirit also helps you understand purpose and seasons as well. And so, so when I talk about being an ancestral medicine woman, right, or spiritual herbalist, like that is really, what it is for me. It is working with that ancestral wisdom, and their understanding of what it meant to live and to heal, not just the body, but spirit first, mind, then body. And as an ancestral medicine woman, that's what I help people remember and return to, that kind of way of being. Yes.
Let me follow up on a question on that, because this is a question I'm interested in, actually. Okay. So how do we tap into our spirit or even link back with our ancestral wisdom? Because from my understanding, you're talking about linking to forth and back, right, with the ancestors, which to me is just very interesting. But not many people talk about it because they don't know how to even tap into that, into that realm.
Yes. And so shameless plug here. I just released a guide. It's called Remembering the Roots, right? And it is a gentle guide to reclaiming ancestral wisdom. And it's just that. It's for people who have this question. It's how do I even, I don't even know where to begin. And I can't say that I ever truly knew where to begin. But it started in just quiet moments, sensing that there was something more, that there was something deeper. It also was, we talked a lot about intuition. You talked about intuition kind of in the beginning here. Like those small rumblings that we tend to ignore, and we let everything outside of us become so much louder than, but sitting with that, or being called to a certain memory, or certain food, or certain, things that were passed down that we just take as, oh, that was just how life was, or, oh, that was just grandmama's recipe, or, oh, that's just the way that my mom cooked rice, or whatever it is. Oh, no. It's so much deeper than that. And so those are those kind of like ancestral whispers, right? And I've always said that our ancestors speak to us through our intuition. Right. And so that's why it's also important to quiet ourselves enough to listen. And they are with us and within us. And so they gently call us back, but it really is just lending your ear to it. Like, that's what it is. It's nothing. You don't have to be an ancestral medicine woman. You don't have to be, this is something that is available to all of us. And when we think about ancestral tradition or ancestral wisdom or ancestral connection, we tend to make it more complex than it needs to be, right? But it is something as simple as recipes, things that we're drawn to, gentle nudges in our spirit and in our soul, and following that and letting the ancestors lead the way, if that makes sense.
Is there a certain setting that you need to be more aligned with your ancestral spirit? Like, if I'm like on a bus or something, it might not be the ideal setting to get aligned.
Well, I think it could happen on the bus, right? When you said that, I remember my great-grandmother taking me on the bus to the mall, right? And so that's an ancestral memory, and and how she was on a bus, right? And what that meant. So it doesn't, it doesn't have to be a deep state of meditation, or some far off land. I mean, yes, as you deepen your connection, you may be called to those places. But it really is, again, those moments of remembrance. So it could happen on a bus. It could happen a song that you hear that reminds something. It could be just something you smell, a scent, right? Maybe it's certain vegetables or herbs that you didn't necessarily make any real connection or think anything about it. But now in this space of being sensitive, where you're starting to look for the ancestral wisdom, you will find it, right? When you look for it, then it emerges and you realize, my goodness, I've been surrounded by this all the time. So no, it doesn't have to be a special pilgrimage or something like that. Those things are beautiful, right? And hopefully we all get to have that someday. But it can be something as simple as riding the bus and remembering how great grandmama took you to the mall on the bus and what that experience was, and how she moved and how she talked to you and how she interacted with people. Yes.
So tell us a little more about being an ancestral medicine woman.
Yes.
And how do you help others? In what ways, I guess?
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. So when I describe myself as an ancestral medicine woman, what is I'm saying is that I work, and my work is rooted in the wisdom of those who came before us, right? So, and again, as I mentioned before, our ancestors had a certain way of living and a certain way that they understood how to be in relationship with the earth, how to be in relationship with others. And so as an ancestral medicine woman, I help people remember and return to those ways of being, which may look very different depending on, right, your exact lineage, or, and so it's not that there's one way to do this, but there are some general wisdoms in terms of the way that they move with the cycles of the earth, right? The way that they were in relationship, in community, and not just in community with others, community with plants, right? Because our medicine was our plant, it was the plants. If someone was ailing, even if they were ailing spiritually, right, or mentally, it was a tea. They would grab some things from the bush and make a tea, right? And so connecting with, spiritual herbalism, ritual, right? Because that's also part of, what are the rituals in your family? What are the rituals ancestrally, or what did they look like, and how do you reclaim them and repurpose them now? And then also that intuitive guidance, helping people connect with that intuitive guidance. All of that is a way that I use to help support people in clearing any energetic and ancestral blocks, right? Because as we connect ancestrally, our ancestors were not perfect, right? They walked this earth like us. They had challenges like us. And while there's so much wisdom and greatness that we can extract, there's also things that we have to overcome, things that they were not able necessarily to overcome as they walk this earth. And so it's both. So clearing that energetic and ancestral blocks, aligning with natural rhythms, and just kind of creating lives that are rooted in health, wholeness, and purpose. And so that's what my work does in a nutshell.
So it doesn't matter what kind of ancestry you had, right? Because on me and you, we have very different ancestry. My ancestry is like the ginsengs, the weird Chinese herbs, and the bugs. Yes. You have a different. So we all have
and I may have different types of herbs. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Say that again.
It doesn't matter which kind of ancestry. You're just helping us bring out our ancestry wisdom.
Absolutely, because at our core, we are all spirit. Spirit is what unites us, right? We all live in this earth, right? So we have some very foundational and fundamental things that unite us. We have this collective kind of experience, or a collective consciousness, because we are all spirit and we all inhabit this earth, right? And so those are things that keep us connected. And then if I think about right, then we have this kind of collective consciousness for those of us who live in certain regions, right? And so most of my clients live in a particular region. And so there is a common lived experience, right, around being in that region. And so there are herbs and things like that that help. We live in a society that's very collective. And so we have this collective societal experience in kind of ailments and things that emerge from there. And so, so there is something that binds us all collectively. So we don't ever have to, feel like, oh, well, I have to have someone who has the exact lineage of me. There's a time and space for that, of course, but there's always commonality with spirit and earth.
Perfect. That is so great. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, I want to learn a little bit more how we link spirit to your mind.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science, at longevity, at exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. take control of your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
Imagine a life where every day is fueled by energy, vitality, and purpose. Where age is just a number and your best years are always ahead. Hi, I'm Andy Nam, certified functional nutrition longevity coach, best-selling author, and international speaker. After reversing my own chronic health struggles, I'm now on a mission to help you live longer, stronger, and of course to look younger. I combine biohacking, cutting-edge nutrition, and stem cell technology to unlock your body's full potential. So no matter where your starting point is, I'm going to guide you toward a chronically healthy life. Ready to reverse aging and take control of your future? Connect with me today. Your journey to longevity starts here.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. In the first segment, you were talking about spirit and how we can link our spirit back to our ancestral wisdom. You always talk about how the spirit is linked to the mind and the body.
Yeah.
So how do we get our mind to link to the spirit? Like what's the next step?
Let me sit with that for a second and just find a good, clear way to explain it. So when we connect to spirit, right, as our kind of our foundation, right, everything then falls into a line, right? Because if I understand, if I'm spiritually grounded, then when things come up, my mental scripts will change, right? For example, we talked about fall, whereas, before I was spiritually grounded, my mental script around fall was, oh my goodness, darkness, depression, grief, longing. Oh my gosh, how can I, let's just get through this, right? And so now understanding it, all the more spiritually, it's like, release, right? Harvesting the things, all the seeds that I've sown over the last 2 seasons, preparing for my time of complete rest and rejuvenation for winter. So even just changing my mental scripts around that, right? Thinking about my identity, right? Because that's also part of a mental framework. Jeanine, whose sister died, right? As opposed to Jeanine, whose sister transitioned and now has a different relationship with her, right? And a different set of rituals with her, right? So my identity is from one of victim or mourner, right, to someone who has had this experience and has reclaimed, that relationship and renegotiated that relationship. So mentally, how I go into the season, how I process that is very different because I have kind of this spiritual grounding. So then when we move into the physical, understanding that, okay, fall is a time for release and getting ready to be in a rested state. So what does my body need, right? Or what does the season begin to call for me? So immunity, right? Because we're coming more indoors, we're different germs, the way we're gathering and connecting. Okay, so I need to be building up my immune system, for that kind of thing. Or wow, my food is changing, right? Because now it's cooler, and so I need things that are going to kind of anchor. I'm going to be eating things that may be a little heavier, that are going to anchor me. So I need to be really thinking about my digestion. How can I keep that in balance as I go through it? And then also, right, with the change of the darkness, it becomes more dark. That can throw off kind of our biorhythm and our nervous system. So how am I nurturing my nervous system, given, so those are kind of those 3 priorities as we move into autumn, if, we're thinking about that from a physical perspective. But it starts with the spiritual, understanding who we are in respect to the cycles of the earth, right? Okay, all right, so I had that. Well, who am I? Who am I, and what are the mental scripts? What are my identities? And then, okay, now that I have that, well, let's see, what does this body need, right? How does it all work together? How can I again leverage the energy, leverage where this season is calling me, and care for myself and be ready for that, as opposed to just letting it just hit me and then just, kind of flailing as it all comes together.
Wow, I love that. So from my understanding then, we're almost using our spiritual as a guide to where we're heading, right? Because it's going to affect our thoughts. And then from our thoughts, we will know what our body needs, right? Especially as the seasons change. That's amazing. That's amazing. I never thought of it that way. Most people are just thinking, well, when summer you wear shorts, you're more outside, and once it's winter you bundle up, right? You don't really think about spiritually or mentally what you physically need. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And again, it comes to be, getting still, getting quiet, and listening. I mean, we carry so much knowledge and wisdom. Like, it is just in us, begging to be heard, right? And unfortunately, though, the busyness of life, or the way that we live in this society, we get so distracted, and the way that we care for ourselves, with the healthcare system and all that. It's a lot of quieting these kind of natural conversation, right? That's happening with us, spirit, mind, and body. We hush it, as opposed to tuning in and tuning into it. Yeah. Yes.
So with the season changing,
yes,
what are the signs that maybe your body is out of sync, not in line with the season?
Yes. At this point, like I was mentioning, in terms of body, gut issues start coming up, right? And so, a lot of us start feeling like having gut issues. So whether we're feeling more bloated, or we're just not feeling quite right with that, right? So that's our body saying, okay, I need some support down here, to kind of settle things. And, because gut health is kind of like, a lot of things happen in our gut. I know they say that is our second brain, but,
exactly.
If I think about African traditional spirituality, that's your first brain, right? Because that resides in the belly, right? Your intuition, when we talk about trusting your gut, like that. That's our powerhouse. That's really our first brain. Another thing too, that we'll start feeling edgy. Like, we'll feel that sadness kind of, creep in. Maybe the anxiety, and some of that anxiety is because it is time to start slowing down, but we don't always know how. We are not trained to know how. So those are things that are going on. And then, of course, we have the sniffles. Now we're worrying about, the cold and all of that, and then our immune system. But I mean, just if I could lean into just kind of some like 3 practical steps, like things that you take: spirit, mind, body. Here's some just some everyday kinds of things we do, starting with spirit. Honoring the season, realizing and reclaiming, like, autumn for what it truly is, right? And so one of the simplest practices we can do is to create a small altar or sacred space. Now, I'm a preacher's daughter, so when we say altar, I know people start, but an altar is simply a sacred space. It could be a windowsill. It could be a shelf, a small table. And I promise you, there's nothing ill going on, but it's just a space of remembrance, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. You can gather a few fall herbs like sage or mugwort. You can place them with a candle. You can add a seasonal item, colorful leaves, an acorn, a small pumpkin, right? A lot of us, we do this, right? We call it decorating, right? But that's it, like, kind of honoring the season, right? And every time we see it, we pause for a moment and we can reflect on what we're ready to release, right? So setting up this sacred space, or, to remind us what the season is calling for and where we're going with it. And just as, like, the trees release their leaves, like, we too can let go of the heaviness. We can let go and invite the balance. And that kind of altar or that sacred space becomes a daily reminder of the season's wisdom. Very simple, right? Not spooky at all. There we go. And if we move to the mind, right, we shift to reflection and focus. So one thing that I love to do, and I love to work with clients on, is journaling. A simple prompt that I love is, what am I ready to release with this season? Right? What is it that I'm ready to And it can be something big, and it can be something as simple as I'm ready to release this need to keep pushing myself when I know that I'm tired, or I'm ready to release looking at all as just a time of sadness. Another could be, what clarity do I need as the year winds down, right? Because as we go inside, as we tune into spirit and our intuition, we can get that clarity. And so that could be as simple as taking 10 minutes with a journal, letting your thoughts, just kind of flow. To deepen this, you could pair it with a cup of rosemary tea, because rosemary is a good herb. It supports memory, it sharpens focus, and it clears mental fog too. And rosemary is also the herb of the ancestors. If you want ancestral connection, rosemary will help you with that. And so as you write, you're sipping this tea, right? And you are inviting both clarity and focus and ancestral memory. And then finally, moving to the body, nourishment and protection, right? And so taking care of the body during the seasonal shift, the cooler weather, again, means our systems are working a little harder. So leaning into our warming herbs, ginger and cinnamon, right? So very simple herbs, right? We all can find that. We probably can look in our cabinet and have some ginger and cinnamon, and then just kind of adding them into our meals, brewing a tea with them, right? Or even sometimes just boiling them and letting the fragrance fill the air, right? The aromas of those two. And because those herbs increase our circulation, they support our digestion, and they naturally strengthen our immunity. So when the body feels supported, right, to transition into these cooler months, then, it's more fortified, and it's able to handle perhaps any, germs and things that would come up against us. And so pairing that with those seasonal foods, so leaning into the foods of the season, like what is growing in your area, right? Nature talks to us and tells us, it talks to the body, right? All of a sudden, this is plentiful. This is what you should be consuming. So our squash, our root vegetables, our leafy greens, all of those things are what gives our body kind of that foundation to stay balanced and strong.
What is on your altar?
Oh my goodness. So what is on my altar right now? I haven't shifted it quite yet, but right now I have cinnamon and I have bay leaf. And I've had cinnamon and bay leaf on my altar now for several months because bay leaf is protective. Bay leaf is good for kind of manifestation. And cinnamon is good for prosperity, right? Cinnamon, you could carry a couple leaves of bay leaf I keep it in my wallet, right? Because it brings in prosperity, and it's also, it protects and it prospers. And the same thing with cinnamon. Yeah. And so those are two things. And I have a little bit of chamomile because chamomile is relaxing. And also chamomile carries the energy of thriving and flourishing, the energy of abundance. And so those are some of the energies that I've been working with. I've been drinking those things as tea too for the last few months. And so that's what's on my altar right now. I have been thinking a lot about hibiscus and clove, as well as like ginger and cinnamon. And so those are the things that I'll kind of start moving into and leaning into. And so I just ordered some hibiscus seeds. I have an indoor garden, and so I'll grow some hibiscus and do some things with that. So yeah, so leaning into that, yes. And the hibiscus is also good for our blood flow and all of that too. And so definitely really good for the winter months, moving from the fall into the winter months. Yeah, so that's what's on my altar.
Yeah. That is interesting, because when you're talking about an altar, Minna was talking about we have different ancestors, right? And my mom is very Buddhist, right? And her altar is with the whole incense and pictures of my grandfather, my great grandfather, and she's always saying, "Hey, you do something nasty, they're watching you, and in my mind, that's what an altar is, right?" And so when Min asks what's on your altar, it's very different. So is there a certain way that you put your cinnamon, like, is it in little satchels and little urns, like? How does that work? Because you're not actually praying at the altar then, right?
No, it's just a space of just kind of, it's a space to reflect, it's a space of remembrance, right? And so I have a little tray, I'm looking at it now, I have a tray, and I like cinnamon sticks, and so they're just sitting on there, and I just sprinkled some, some chamomile, and I put a few bay leaves there. I do have a candle there. I'm looking at it now, and so all my ancestors are looking at me because I have pictures of them, and they're almost looking like you didn't tell them that we're there. But anyway, it's pictures of them. There's a candle. There's a glass of water, there's a plant, those kinds of things. Or even behind me here, this is a small altar. That painting was done. That's a print of a painting done by my great uncle, who was like my grandfather. I have a little plant, and then there's a little box back there that he gave me. He got it from India, and when I was a little girl, I wanted it so bad, and he gave me anything I wanted, and so that's there. And then there's a picture of him over there too. So like just these spaces of remembrance, right? So when I see that, I think of him, and I think of his wisdom. I think of his love, right? Because that's also something too. If we're thinking about fall and moving into these winter months, thinking about the love that surrounds, all of the love, all of the wisdom, the ways that we've been nurtured by those who cared for us in the best ways that they knew how. And so remembering that and honoring that and taking that and moving that forward is also part of it. Yeah.
I have a question, but I don't know how to ask it.
Okay.
So how in the modern day, right, we are connected by internet and all those things, right? You, on the other hand, is connected ancestrally. But how does it all work together, or do they don't work together?
Oh, wow. Well, okay. So here's some ways that, it does work together. A lot of my ancestral knowledge I have now is because of the internet and records and things like that, like I have pictures of like my great grandfather. I have a picture of him on my wall.
Wow.
Because my brother is some archival research, and he's found that online. I know that I have connection, ancestral connection to Bermuda because of ancestry.com and the ways that we can link that way. I understand African traditional spirituality because I can follow those who are more close to that practice, right? That was something that was not necessarily promoted. Maybe I would even say in some ways lost, right? For me in my very current lineage line and ancestors, but there are those who are still connected to those things, and I can learn from them. And so so it is all connected, so we can use it. I feel like even more so we have more access to reclaiming that. Or even me, I can put together Remembering the Roots as a little ebook, and you can come to my website and download it and start your own journey. So there's so many ways that we can use these things, right? Use these tools to even deepen and stay connected ancestrally. Yes.
Can you share a story of a client that has, quickly on how his life has changed, connecting with his ancestral wisdom?
Oh my goodness, I could name some. I could give so many, but I'll give a very fairly recent one. I had a client who she's a younger woman. She lost her mother earlier this year. She was going through some challenges, and so she started doing sessions with me just for kind of intuitive and spiritual guidance. And I had mentioned to her, we talked a lot about grief. We talked a lot about about her mother transitioning, and how to kind of even reframe in her mind this experience that she's had with her mother. And I remember when when our session, she was able to wear the urn, right? So she had a little urn necklace. She was able to wear that. She told me of a dream, right? That she asked her mom, "Why did you leave me?" And her mom said, "I didn't leave, I'm just resting." And finally, on one of our last sessions, she asked me, she said, "Dr. Williams, you said that you can connect with the ancestors sometime. Can we do that?" And so I explained to her that, your mother has to be willing, to send a message. But the fact that you are feeling like you want this is probably a good sign that she's calling, right? You're wearing her urn. And so we did. I actually used tarot for that particular one. And all of the cards like connected with this. Anyway, long story short, the client was able to reclaim that and move from a place of just deep grief to kind of renegotiating this relationship. She's back at college, having a good start to the fall semester, but she was so unable to do that prior to working through the grief and renegotiating and reclaiming her relationship with her mother in the transition. So yes. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So what is the best way for people to connect with you and dive into this a little bit? Because like I said, so much of our lives are led or guided by our ancestors, and we don't know about it. So it'll be really nice for some people to dig in and maybe even listen a little bit more, because I'm sure my father or great grandfather is telling me to do certain things, and I don't know, I don't listen. I don't know how to tune in,
Yes. I would say the quickest and easiest starting point is to download Remembering the Roots. And that's available on my website, ancestorsbosom.com. It is a short 80-page guide that is lots of journal prompts and things like that help you on your journey. It's not about my journey, it's about you. And so providing kind of just that framework for connecting. If you want something further, you can also come to my website. And I offer one-on-one sessions, like one-time sessions. I even have a 12-week pathway for people who really want to connect and who are ready and who just want that guidance and someone to kind of shepherd them through that journey of remembering, and then also who is also skilled in bringing in herbal formulas and things like that can open up those intuitive channels, open up, kind of ancestral memory and all of that. Yeah, so that's the best way to connect with me is through ancestorsbosom.com. And then also on the screen here, I see that my email address is there, and I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Thank you, Jeanine. We'll be talking soon, because Jeanine is joining us for the Chronic Health Collective next year. And we're going to be sharing a lot more. We're going to see a lot more of you. And, we're going to hear a lot more about our ancestors.
Thank you.
Yes. I love this. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm.
Hey, everybody. Christy here. I thought it would be fun to start proving my point that the schools have stripped away the tools that kids actually need to read, starting with what I call the forgotten schwa. So I'm going to prove to you that the word "the" is not a sight word. And the way I'm going to do it is by explaining the very, very simple thing, what a schwa is. All a schwad vowel is a vowel that says instead of the sound that it's supposed to make. So in this word, you can see I put a little hat on it. That's how I teach the kids for schwa. We put the hat on the schwa, and it helps give them a visual cue. So E in this word is a schwad vowel. It says instead of E or eh. So that's all it is. A schwa only means that the vowel says That's all. So can you see what can happen if we teach kids that little phonics trick and we give them a visual to remind them that, I'm dealing with a schwad vowel here? How simple. And then they start, when they see words like bananas, I have a little sentence here that I did. Bananas, how many schwas do you see in the word bananas? And they start thinking in terms of syllables. Ba, there's a schwa. The first one is a schwa. Na, that's not a schwa. It says as, that's its sound. Nuz, second schwa. So they can put hats on the first and the third A in bananas, or in all the other words, to gamify learning schwa. And that's kind of gives you a taste of how we do it at Barefoot Learning Club to help you and your kids make reading into something fun and easy. All right, we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. It is always interesting learning new things and how we are so connected into so many things in the unknown, right? And for this year, we got into this journey into so many people that are intuitive that we're tapping into a little bit about that. But yeah, we're definitely going to see a little bit more of Jeanine Williams coming up in the Chronic Health Collective. But that's it for this week's Chronically Healthy Life. Thank you for sharing this space with us. We're honored to be part of your journey towards healing, hope, and longevity.
And of course, join us every Friday, 7 p.m. CST on e360tv.com. We are on the Vitality TV network and also on YouTube, Chronically Healthy Life. And check out our website, chronicallyhealthylife.com. We just fixed it, so it's actually a great place to find out what we do, get a 30-minute consultation from Annie, and check out our brand new skincare line.
Until next time, stay vibrant, stay strong, and stay chronically healthy.
We see you next week.